It's getting to that point with the Bengals week after week that there's not a whole lot more to say.
We can't fall down on a long pass play. We can't allow a blocked punt again, and we can't fumble the football. So I give Jacksonville credit, and that's it.
A Bengals effort wrapped up in a grand total of 12 seconds. It wasn't worth much more. But let's go back 3 hours or so when the Bengals entered the home of the Jacksonville Jaguars, a place with extreme catitude, a place that realized the Bengals are the only AFC Central team that owns a winning record against their Jaguars. But today it would be the Bengals without Darnay Scott and without James Francis.
Just like last week, let's move down the field and have fun.
And let's have some fun. I'm going to leave you with this note. We ain't scared of these
The Bengals appeared fired up, or were they?
Last week we came out, we played good. The emotion was high. Everything seemed like it was going pretty good. This week, it just didn't seem that way.
On their second offensive series, Alvis, with an A, Whitted, made his first catch as a pro player, and it was a big one. 55 yards past Artrell Hawkins, who had slipped and fallen.
I fell down, but, I can't. When I fall down, that's what happens. They get down the field 40, 50 yards. I got to stay up.
2 plays later, Fred Taylor ran 1 yard to put the Jaguars on the scoreboard 7-0. The Bengals tried to get something going with some trickery.
Motion to the left. Here's a toss sweep and working to reverse. There goes the toss sweep back. And Neil O'Donnell looks downfield, has Tony McGee, makes the catch 45-40, caught from behind by Bryce Pop.
When the tricks ran out, so did the yardage. 3 first-quarter drives ended in quick punts. Meanwhile, the Bengals defense went into its Jekyll and Hyde mode. They would get an impressive sack from Steve Foley on 1 play, followed by a 3rd and very long that gave Mark Brunell enough time to play 9 holes at Sawgrass and enough room to run for 17 yards, keeping the drive alive. That drive ended with a field goal, 10-0 Jacksonville. Not good, but not terrible. A kick once again figured in the Bengals' downfall. Early second period, a Lee Johnson punt is deflected. It goes only 10 yards. It puts the Jaguars into good field position. Such good position, it took Mark Brunell only 4 plays to cover 50 yards. The last 18 went from Brunell to Jimmy Smith, 17-0 Jaguars. The Jags were tough enough to work against. Pretty soon the Bengals seemed to be working against themselves. Early in the second quarter, Tremaine Mack hit a crease and broke free to the right side. He goes 83 yards, but it was all called back by a holding penalty. Then another break. Bernard Wilson chases down Brunell and punches the ball free. Artrell Hawkins picks it up, and he aims at the end zone. Tony Baselli tracks him down, and the Bengals are in business. They moved to the 14 and handed the ball to Corey Dillon, who for the 2nd week in a row fumbled. Joel Smeagy forced it, and Aaron Beasley had 90 yards of Florida real estate in front of him. It was the longest fumble return in Jags history. They now had a 24-0 lead.
And the Jaguars have just turned the tide on the Cincinnati Bengals.
Interesting, though, the Bengals then made another drive, mostly running the ball. They again got into the red zone, this a first down pickup by Eric Bieniemy. But inside the 5-yard line, the Bengals died, this time on 4th down. Neil O'Donnell fumbled the snap, and the Bengals were being shut out at halftime.
Oh, it's very frustrating, it was hard enough for us to get down there. Then when we get down there, we don't do anything with it.
We had plays to move the ball, and we didn't move the ball. Like I said, it was just a lack of, consistency as far as I'm going up and down the field. We'll do some good things on a drive, and then, probably a fumble or whatever would happen.
The second half started like the first half had ended. The Bengals moving the ball down the field against the Jaguars. This one went to the 14. But then came penalties, missed assignments, and poor execution. O'Donnell was being rushed hard.
About us being behind, those guys just kind of teed it up and just pass rushed all day long, which is a defensive lineman's dream.
The Bengals had to settle for less than they expected. Doug Pelfrey booted a 50-yard field goal. 24-3, the Jaguars weren't worried yet. They didn't have to. They brought in a backup quarterback who didn't score but did take care of the offense the rest of the game. Well, the Bengals were producing hardly anything on offense. They were getting smashed on the run, and they were getting covered very well on the pass. Nothing really was working until Paul Justin was told to go in.
I was surprised that I was asked to go in. Bruce explained it to me, and he wanted to see what I could do. He knows what Jeff can do. You know, nothing was happening. We were down 24-3, 8 minutes left. You know, go out there and do your thing.
His thing was to move the Bengals in the closing minutes of this game. He hit Willie Jackson for a gain of 35 yards. He found James Hunden. That picks up 17 yards. And then he located Damon Gibson in the end zone for the Bengals' only touchdown of the day. But that's the only highlight of the day for the Bengals. They do well on the stat sheet, but Jacksonville made the plays that had to be made.
That's the bottom line in this business, is winning. It doesn't matter how you do it or whatever, as long as you win. And problem day, we didn't win, so you know, it was a long day.
And it made for a long trip home tonight. It'll make for a long week with the Minnesota Vikings on the schedule next Sunday afternoon.